friends, welcome to the first video from School Bag. In this video, we will be discussing the first chapter of NCERT book, which is Crop Production and Management. This chapter is quite important from the examination point of view and is application based, as some lessons that you will be learning here can be easily applied in your indoor as well as outdoor gardening, which might be your hobby. So let's start unpacking it. This chapter covers both crop production and crop management. Now, what do I mean by crop production? This term covers all the agricultural practices and systems concerning crop yield. For example, sowing in proper season, proper irrigation, having nutrient-rich soil, etc. The next one is crop management. It is a group of agricultural practices used to improve the growth, development and yield of agricultural crops. Some practices include removal of weeds, efficient cold storage for vegetables, protection from rodents, etc. The next slide covers the outline of the topics for today's class. We will start with the basic definition of crops. Crops are plants of the same kind that are cultivated at one place on a large scale. These 2 points are very important, that plants should be of the same kind and they should be grown on a large scale. We have different kinds of crops: cereal crops, vegetable crops and fruit crops. We have cereal crops like wheat, maize, paddy, etc. We have vegetable crops like brinjal, onion, tomato, potato, etc. And we have fruit crops like banana, mango, etc. In India, basically we have two kinds of cropping patterns. One is called the Kharif cropping pattern and the other is the Rabi cropping pattern. Let us try to distinguish between these two cropping patterns. So we distinguish them on their sowing period, harvesting period and examples. Kharif crops are basically sown in the rainy season, that is between June and September, which is currently. They are harvested in the months of October and November. Common examples of Kharif crops are paddy, maize, soya bean, groundnut and cotton. Friends, it is very important to learn few examples of both Kharif and Rabi crops from the examination perspective, and also it is very important to see how we can distinguish between these two cropping patterns. Rabi crops are sown in the winter season between October to March and they are harvested in the months of April to May. Common examples are wheat, gram, pea, mustard and linseed. In our bag secret, we have discussed in detail how you should answer or distinguish between kind of question in your examination. Please watch that out in the later part of the video. Next, we have the basic agricultural practices. So sequentially, we have put all these agricultural practices. These are: first, we do the preparation of soil, then we sow the seeds, add manure and fertilizers, irrigation, protecting from weeds, harvesting and storage. Friends, please keep one thing in mind, that adding manure and fertilizer need not be the third practice that you need to do. I mean, it need not be in this sequence. Please take this step with a pinch of salt, because we can actually add manure and fertilizer even before preparation of soil, during the preparation of soil, before sowing seed, or even after sowing seeds. In between we have certain saplings grown, we add manures and fertilizers too. So it isn't a hard and fast third step for your agriculture, but other steps are quite stringent and they follow this sequence only. We will now start discussing these agricultural practices in detail. The first one is preparation of soil. We prepare the soil using a plow, and the process is called plowing. So what is plowing? Plowing is the process of digging, loosening and turning of the soil. And why do we need to plow? Because the loosened soil helps in the growth of earthworms and microbes present in the soil, which add humus to the soil and make it more fertile. Also, it is very important to note that it is only the top layer of the soil that supports plant growth. So, it is very important to bring the nutrient-rich soil to the top layer so that the plants can absorb the nutrients. And this is done with the help of plowing. I would now like to show you a video how normally plowing is done in India. So you see in this video there is a tractor and there is a tool called cultivator attached behind the tractor. And you see how this cultivator is actually plowing the soil. This is the most common way how plowing is done in India. After we are done with plowing, we start breaking the crumbs. Now, what are crumbs? Crumbs are big lumps of soil which need to be broken. And why do we need to break them? Because so that they can enable enough of air to penetrate in the soil and seeds can easily erupt into saplings. So after plowing, we do crumb breaking. And after breaking the crumbs, we move on with leveling. What is leveling? Leveling is the process of removal of unevenness of the soil. And why do we need to level the field? Because it is beneficial for sowing and irrigation. I have a video to show how leveling is done in the fields. So you see this tractor attached to the, you see this leveler attached to the tractor, and the leveler has a large number of wheels which have many teeth. So using these toothed wheel, the field is leveled and the unevenness of the field is removed. Let us now discuss some of the important agricultural tools. First one is a plow. A plow is made up of wood drawn by animals, mostly bulls. It's very important to know the main parts of the plow. So there are three main parts of the plow. The first is plowshare, which is the triangular iron strip. You can see in this image, this triangular iron strip is called the plowshare. The next one is the plow shaft. It is the long log of wood which you have in your plow. So this is the long log of wood that you see here. This is my plow shaft. The third one is beam. Beam is the wooden part placed on the bull's neck. You can see in the image, this wooden part placed on the bull's neck is called the beam. So I'll repeat again. Plowshare is this triangular part normally made up of iron. Plow shaft is this long log of wood, and beam is the wooden part that is placed on the bull's neck. These are the three important parts of a plow. The next important tool that we have is the hoe. What is this tool? It is used for removing weed and for plowing. Now, this is the diagram which is given in your NCERT book for a hoe. I would say that this is quite complicated, but nevertheless, we are only concerned with the bent plate of this hoe, which works like a blade, and this beam. So just as the beam you had in your plow that was tied around the neck of a bull, this beam is also put around the neck of the animals, and this hoe is pulled by them, and with the help of this bent plate the weeds are removed or plowed, whatever the requirement would be. Next, we will see a set of two more tools. The first one is a cultivator. We have already seen this while we were discussing plowing. So this is tractor driven and it reduces human labor and effort. It is used for plowing. The second one is a seed drill. You can see this is also tractor driven, and this has these yellow jars which contain the seeds, and these iron rods are placed at equal distances so as to make sure that the seeds are put at equal distances and at uniform depth, and also they cover the seeds after they are put. This is to make sure that the seeds are not eaten by the birds. The next agricultural practice is sowing of seeds. Before sowing, we must ensure that we have good quality, clean, healthy seeds of a good variety. For this selection, there is an activity mentioned in your NCERT book where we take a beaker, put half water into it and put some wheat into it. Stir the beaker and put it for some time. What we see is few of the wheat, they sink in water and few float on the surface. So the wheat which sink in water are of good quality. The ones which are of poor quality or are damaged, they become hollow and hence they become lighter, because of which they float on the surface. Sowing also must be done preventing overcrowding so that all the seeds get sufficient sunlight, nutrients and water from the soil. We have this traditional method of sowing the seeds. In this picture you can see this funnel shaped thing, and there is a pipe which is put on the ground. So this pipe has a sharp edge through which it has been attached to the ground, and the seeds are put into this funnel one after the another. And as the bulls they carry the plow, they keep digging the earth. The seeds are put inside the earth with the help of human intervention. We have already seen the modern method of sowing seed, in which we use a tool called seed drill. The next agricultural practice is adding manure and fertilizers. So in this segment, it is very important that we understand what is a fertilizer and what is a manure and what are the differences between them. So fertilizers, they are chemical in nature. They are inorganic. They are chemical rich in particular components. These are not naturally available and these are synthesized in factories. Fertilizers do not provide any humus to the soil, but they are very rich in plant nutrients. What are the plant nutrients? Nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium are three basic plant nutrients, and fertilizers are very rich in plant nutrients. Some important examples of fertilizers are urea, ammonium sulfate, potash, superphosphate and NPK, which is your nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. On the other hand, manures are organic substances. These are obtained from the decomposition of plants or animal waste. In your lower classes, you have studied something called vermicomposting, right? So vermicomposting is a process through which you can make manure, and these manures are naturally made with the help of soil friendly microorganisms. They add humus to the soil, which is very beneficial for the soil. It enhances the soil's fertility. But they are relatively less rich in your plant nutrients, which are nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. So cow dung is very commonly used as manure in India. Next we will study about crop rotation, which is a process of replenishment of the soil. In crop rotation, we grow different crops alternately. What happens is, when we grow the same crop on a piece of land every year or every season, the same nutrients are taken which are required by that particular plant, and as a result the soil becomes deficient in those nutrients. So when we grow different crops alternately whose requirements are different, we can replenish the soil. A very common example is growing fodder, legume fodder and wheat alternately. So legumes, the roots of the legumes, they contain a bacteria called rhizobium, which helps in fixing the nitrogen. So this helps in replenishment of the soil with nitrogen. This is very important. So very commonly this question is asked in the exam with an example. So this is a very important example for you, growing legumes alternately with wheat. Let us now discuss the advantages and disadvantages of manures and fertilizers. Manures enhance the water holding capacity of the soil. They make the soil porous, which helps in easy exchange of gases. They increase the number of friendly microbes in the soil, and they improve the texture of the soil. So these are the four major advantages of manure. They enhance the water holding capacity, make the soil porous for easy exchange of gases, increase the number of friendly microbes in the soil, improve the texture of the soil. So when we have so many advantages of manure, why do we need fertilizers? Fertilizers are chemicals, right? If something which is organic can provide us with all the advantages, we do not need fertilizers at all. But we need them because fertilizers are far richer in plant nutrients than manures. Also, we have nutrient-specific fertilizers available, but we do not have any nutrient-specific manure per se. Suppose a piece of land is deficient in potassium, you can provide potassium to that piece of land through a potassium-rich fertilizer, but that cannot be done through a manure. So, this is another advantage of fertilizer, that is having nutrient-specific fertilizers that can be used based on the soil requirement. Now, since these fertilizers are chemicals, we have many disadvantages of overuse of fertilizers. They can make the soil less fertile. They can act as a source of water pollution. They can act as a water pollutant because they get drained to nearby water bodies during rains. And prolonged use of fertilizers can make land unsuitable for agriculture. Now suppose a question comes, what are the disadvantages of a manure? You can say, what are the advantages of fertilizer? They act as disadvantages of manure, that manures are not very rich in plant nutrients and we do not have any nutrient specific manure per se. Now is the time for our bag secret one. Enjoy! The next agricultural practice is irrigation. First we will discuss the traditional methods, which are basically manual in nature. The labor is either done by man or by animals. So in the traditional methods, water available in different wells, lakes and canals is lifted up with the help of cattle or human labor using cheaper and less efficient ways. And these are certain names given which vary from regions to region. So the first one is moat system, which is our pulley system. In your NCERT books, the process is not explained and it is not very important from the examination perspective, but we will see them in detail one after the other. So in the pulley system, this is a very traditional method, very common practice which we also use to carry out water from wells. So in this there is a pulley and through the help of this pulley we fill water in large water containers and we move this water, we throw this water in the common channel through which the water is distributed to the crops. The second one is chain pump. So here in your book you can see only one wheel, but traditionally how it is done is you have got two wheels here. As you can see in this diagram, this is a bigger wheel and here we have a smaller wheel and there is a chain attached to it, the chain which keeps on moving. This is a moving chain between these two wheels and we put multiple buckets on this chain. So you can see this one bucket which I have drawn here. So likewise we have more buckets into this chain and with the help of this setup, all these buckets are filled with water and they are thrown on this common distribution channel, and through this distribution channel the water goes to different fields. The next traditional method is Dekli. In Dekli what we do is we avoid human labor and there a balance of weights work. So there is a weight which balances the weight of the bucket and through this balance the water is taken out from the well and it is again thrown to a common channel through which it is distributed to the fields. The last one is Rahat or the lever system. Here the labor is done by animals. So the common animals which are used for this purpose are oxen, camels or cows. So here you can see that this is a rod. This rod is moved by these cattle through which this wheels start moving, and the wheels, when they move, the multiple buckets which are attached to this wheel, they get filled with water and the water is then thrown in the common channel through which it is distributed in the fields. So the difference is here we use animal labor and we move this wheel through the movement of this rod. We will now discuss the modern methods of irrigation. The first one is sprinkler irrigation. In the sprinkler irrigation we have perpendicular pipes which have rotating nozzles. So I have a video, I will show this video So you can see here that this is a perpendicular nozzle and the water is getting sprinkled, as you can see here in the video. So this is water is flown under pressure with the help of pumps, and the pipes are joined to the main pipeline. This is preferred in uneven lands where sufficient water is not available, and this is very commonly used in watering lawns. If you go to any public garden or lawn, you can see these sprinklers very commonly used. Also, this is used in coffee plantation. The next modern method is drip irrigation. Why it is called drip irrigation? Because water flows drop by drop. The water flows drop by drop near the roots, hence it is called drip. Let us see through this video. You see how these pipes are spread on the ground, and you can see all these pipes, and the water nearly flows drop by drop near the roots. So this is basically used in water scarce regions as it prevents wastage of water, and we use this method for watering fruit plants, garden and trees. These two methods are very important methods for modern irrigation, and you can expect a question as a distinguish between sprinkler irrigation and drip irrigation. The next process is protection from weeds. What are weeds? Weeds are the undesirable plants which naturally grow along with the crops. And weeding is the process of removal of weeds. Why at all do we need to remove the weeds? Why is the process of weeding required? Because weeds compete with the crop plants for water, nutrients, space and light. Thus, they affect the growth of crops. Weeds also interfere in harvesting, and they may be poisonous for animals and human beings also in some cases. How is the process of weeding carried out? While we plow the land or sow the seeds, during that process only, many weeds are uprooted and killed. Weeds are also manually removed by uprooting or cutting them close to the ground with the help of a tool called khurpi. Weeds can also be removed with the help of chemicals called weedicides. These chemicals are sprayed to kill the weeds without damaging the main crops. Mostly these are diluted first and then sprayed. These are sprayed before flowering and seed formation. Also, the farmer should be very careful while spraying the weeds. He should close his nose and mouth, and there shouldn't be any direct contact with the weedicides on his skin. The next agricultural process is harvesting. Harvesting is the process of cutting the crops after they become mature. The crops are cut close to the ground, and it usually takes 3 to 4 months for a cereal crop to mature. How is harvesting carried out? This can be done manually with the help of a tool called sickle. Sickle, you can see this image. This is a sickle. Harvesting can also be done using a machine called harvester. After harvesting, the process that is carried out is called threshing. Threshing is the process of separation of chaff, or chaff is kind of unwanted, unwanted things that you get from the harvested grains. So we separate these chaff from the grain seeds after harvesting. This process is called threshing, and we use a machine called combine to do this. Why is it known as combine? Because this machine does both the task of a harvester as well as task of a thresher. When the plot of land is small and the harvest isn't much, farmers also do threshing through a process known as winnowing. That is, through a winnowing machine, air is blown that separates the chaff from the main grain seeds. I have a video which shows how a combine works. This is a combine, and you see how this machine is actually harvesting the grains, and it is also separating the chaff from the grains, and it is collecting the finally collected grain seeds. The next agricultural practice after harvesting is storage. The harvested grains need to be kept safe from moisture, insects, rodents like rats, and microorganisms like fungi and bacteria. So it is very important that we keep our harvested grain free from these things. For this, first of all, the grains must be dried properly. Why? So that they get free of any moisture. Else they will get attacked by microbes like fungi and bacteria and some pests. Large-scale storage of grains is done in silos and granaries. What are these silos and granaries? These are very large tanks which serve the purpose of storehouses. And in these silos and granaries, the grains are protected from pests like rat and insects. Jute bags are used to make gunny bags. Why? Because they protect the grains from the insects, and also jute is eco-friendly and it can be disposed of very easily. In our homes, we have seen very commonly we use dried neem leaves for storage. The basic reason is the neem leaves absorb moisture from the grains and also serve as insecticides by repelling the insects from attacking the grains. Also, in large quantities of grains in big godowns, we use specific chemical treatments for storage. Cold storage is required for storing milk and milk products. These are the products that we get from animal husbandry, which we will be discussing next. Next, we will discuss animal husbandry in brief. Animal husbandry is the process of rearing animals on a large scale at home or in farms. This is basically done for milk, meat, eggs, fiber, oil, etc. For example, we rear cows for milk, goats for meat, hen for eggs, and fish for cod liver oil. So friends, we have reached the end of our first video. You can get the solutions to the NCERT questions of chapter 1 through a link that we have shared in our description box. So please subscribe to our channel and keep supporting us. Let's keep unpacking.